You ever sit back and just look at your aquarium and wonder, what the hell happened to it? You used to love it, and now you look at YouTube videos of other people's tanks and they look great, but yours? Just not doing it for you. Well, I'm gonna give you 5 tips on how to dress up your tank and make it look beautiful. Here we go. I love the way my tanks look now, but when I look back to video clips from even a year ago of how my tanks looked then, I'm amazed at how boring they looked. And I'm sure that when I look back a year from now, I'm gonna think the same things about my tanks now. If you have messy or boring tanks, then let's do something about it. And stick around to the end of this video because I'll have a bonus tip for you as well. So let's kick this thing off with the one thing that can ruin the look of your tank more than anything else, and that's a rat's nest of cables and messy equipment. I think a clean look to your tank makes a huge difference in how attractive it is. I've seen lots of messy aquariums, and I can tell you I've never been jealous of any of them. The equipment is necessary to keep your fish alive, but it isn't always necessary to see it in plain sight. If you have a sump, then you can put that inside your aquarium stand and then hide almost all your equipment inside of it. But I don't have a sump, and I'll bet a lot of you don't have one either. That means that you'll probably be putting much of your equipment along the back panel of your aquarium. And if your back panel's clear, then you're gonna see every last thing that you have hanging on it. Just trying to enjoy those beautiful fish, but instead, it's those hang-on back filters and wires and cables that you see. You just have to get those hidden, and there are a few ways to do it. The first one is what I did with my 75-gallon African cichlid grow-out tank. I just painted the back panel black so that you can't see anything behind the tank. It took a lot of coats, like 5 or so, but it was pretty easy to do and it didn't take long. You just have to use the right paint and make sure each coat thoroughly dries before you add another one. You can use latex paint or Krylon spray paint, and just be careful not to get any on the sides or inside the tank. It can be dangerous to do if you already have fish in your aquarium because of the fumes. I've heard horror stories about fish dying because of strong fumes that wound up in the tank water. You can paint it any color you like, but most people prefer a nice blue or black panel. I obviously prefer the black look. Makes it look classy, I think, but you know, do whatever floats your boat. Another way to do it is to add some window tint to the back panel. You can find it on Amazon or in any big box hardware store. I have a link to where I bought mine in the video description. You can just cut it and then apply it with some extremely soapy water, squeegee it out to make it flat, and voila! You have a perfectly black background. Just make sure that you use a lot of soapy water, and I mean, I'm not kidding, it's a ridiculously large amount of soapy water. Or you'll wind up with a half-assed looking background like I have on Alcatraz. See all those little lines all over it? I couldn't see all those until I filled the tank and turned the tank lights on. I do show you the whole process in my Episto tank setup video, upper right corner if you please. And a third and final option is to buy a super expensive 3D background. I'm not really totally crazy about those. Your mind will explode when you find out how much they cost, and I think it's too easy for things like detritus and even fish to get stuck behind them. Also, they take up valuable space in the tank, so if you have a smaller aquarium, I'd say stay away from these. So after you get all those wires and whatnot hidden, you'll feel a huge sense of accomplishment, and you'll once again love looking at your beautiful tank. It's easy to just head down to your local fish store or big box store and look for the most beautiful fish you can find, make sure they get along well in your tank, and then just buy them and take them home, put them in your tank. But if you keep doing that, you can wind up with a huge eclectic gaggle of fish in your tank, and it doesn't look like you really had any rhyme or reason in stocking it. So what I do is think about how I want the tank to look before I buy any of my fish, what layers I want fish at, and what sizes I want, what kind of colors I want. It's called strategic stocking, and this will help make your tank look a lot more beautiful than if you just go buy some fish that you like. My master plan with my 180-gallon tank was to have just angelfish and red-headed tapajos. They're actually called Geophagus pyrocephalus now.
Sweet.
I like the appearance of each and how different they are from each other in both appearance and behavior. But I wasn't just looking at those two things. I also liked how the angelfish would mostly occupy the mid to top of the tank, and the geos would generally be at the bottom level of the tank, sifting through the sand. I thought about this before I bought them. It would give the tank dimension. And originally, I had some tetras in there as well, but even though they weren't supposed to be fin nippers, those little monsters were going after my angels big time, so they had to go. But they would have added a little activity to the tank without it becoming too active, since they were so small. I've since added a Jurapari, which is also a geo, because I've always enjoyed him and he'll fit in fine with the redheads. You'll also notice a red-tailed shark and a pleco. I like the way the solid deep black and red bold tail of the shark contrasts with the rest of the colors and designs in the tank. I like how there will be only one of him, so he's like a pop of color and interest. I recommend considering the idea to have several groups of similar fish and then one solo fish who stands out to give your tank that pop. I could have added some other fish, and I considered it, like silver dollars, but I don't think the busy feel of those fish would complement the laid-back feel of everyone else. Plus, they're just a drab silver, which I don't think would add anything to the tank anyway. So when you're looking at fish to stock your tank with, make sure that they will not only work with your tank's parameters and tank size, but also think about your tank as layers. The bottom of the tank, where fish like catfish and my geos like to reside, the middle of the tank, where you'll find fish like the red-tailed shark and a lot of tetras, and the top of the tank, where you'll find fish like my angelfish. Try to get some fish that will occupy each level, and fish whose shapes and colors are complementary and work well with each other. And if you have mostly slow-moving, casual fish, don't get any speedsters unless they're small enough that they won't destroy the mood of the tank. But now that I think about it, the best thing that you could do would be to
subscribe, or someone dies. Ding ding.
Just because you can buy it, definitely doesn't mean you should buy it. Trendy, cute decor that you bought from Petco. You see this a lot mostly with newer fish keepers and kids. When I was a kid, I even had a no fishing sign in my tank. And if you like this kind of thing, then that's totally cool. I mean, go for it. I'm just saying that normally you don't see really beautiful aquariums designed by skilled scapers that also include that type of decor. It's usually more of a natural feel, like I've tried to create in my tanks. None of my sand has unnatural colors in it like pinks and blues, and most of the decor is made up of different types of driftwood and rocks. Sure, my tanks have some fake rocks and plants, but they, 1, look pretty real, and 2, aren't cute gimmicky things that you would typically see at Petco. I mean, do what makes you happy. Well, actually scrap that. Just get natural looking decor. You'll thank me later. You might be looking at your aquarium and thinking, man, it sure looks cloudy in there. Almost like you're looking through a fog. And you're probably thinking it's your water, and it could be your water, but you know what? It could also be that you just need to wipe down your panels. It doesn't matter how clear your water is and how clean and beautiful your tank is if you're looking at it through dirty glass. I mean, your fish will appreciate the clean water, but it won't make your tank look any prettier. You might not even be able to tell that your aquarium panels are dirty. Sometimes it's obvious, like when you have algae on them. Just wipe that away or get some algae eaters like plecos or nerite snails to clean it up for you. However, oftentimes my panels on my acrylic tanks look fine, like there would be nothing to wipe away. But there's a thin biofilm on there that accumulates over a course of a week or two, trying to thwart my efforts to keep my tank looking clean and clear. So every other water change, I'll just take a non-scented magic eraser pad and gently wipe down the front and side panels. And it may not seem like much, but it really makes a huge difference. My angel tank does have some algae on the front panel that I can't get off without scrubbing harder than I am comfortable with on this tank, so I'm waiting for my pleco to get it. If you scrub with any significant pressure on acrylic, it'll scratch big time. And before we move on, let me know in the comments what you do to get your tank looking sweet. Oh yes. This next one I've seen a lot of new fish keeper tanks, kind of like the SpongeBob decor or the no fishing signs. I'm talking about air bubbles, and if you got them, maybe it's time to let them go. Sometimes these don't look terrible, I'll admit it, but if you check out a tank with them and then remove them, it'll probably look better without. It goes with the natural theme I was talking about. Lots of bubbles coming out of nowhere isn't very natural, is it? So if you want some surface agitation, I'd typically just use a wave maker pointed at the top of the tank, and it does the job just fine. I think this one is important to do in conjunction with removing the cutesy decor. If you're gonna keep your fake giant castle, then you might as well just keep your bubbles too, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot already to help your tank to start looking good, but since you've hung around this long, you deserve a bonus tip. Remember that your tank isn't gonna just be judged by what's inside of it. Everything around the tank is gonna contribute to how beautiful your tank looks. It's really easy to start storing things on top of your aquarium like it's a bookshelf. I've even stupidly put my phone on top of my aquarium before. So instead of doing that kind of thing, don't. If your house is anything like mine, stuff accumulates in places it doesn't belong. Oh, I'll just drop this off here for now. And then it stays there, and it looks really messy. You might be doing a water change and you add some prime. Just put that bottle right on top of the tank lid, right? You'll clean that up later. But you don't, and then not only do you waste time looking for it next time you do a water change, but it starts to look like a cluttered storage area because now you don't just have the bottle of prime on top of your lid, it has company in the form of a jar of fish food, the spoon you use to feed some pellets to your fish, and even your car keys. And you decided to take my advice to get rid of the pineapple under the sea. It's sitting on top of your tank now too. So if you've taken the time to paint your background black and hide all those nasty wires and clean your panels so they're nice and clear, but you have all kinds of clutter on top of your tank and around your tank, then you're defeating the purpose. It'll never look as nice as you want it to. Keep the area around your tank clear, and it's okay to put something on top of your tank, but just don't forget about it and take care of it right away after you're done with it.
Nice.
Believe me, you will appreciate your tank a lot more. These tips will all help kickstart the transformation of your tank from something ugly to irresistible. But none of that's gonna do you any good at all if you're a new fish keeper and you don't even know how to start a new fish tank without killing all your fish. Fortunately, I made a video just for you that you can watch right here. You've been watching the Cichlid Charmer, and as always, God bless, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.